Happy Friday. I hope you guys are having a really great day. Thank you so much for joining me again for my live. I'm just gonna wait for a few minutes and give people a chance to hop on before I start. So if you're just joining or if you're watching the replay, welcome. I am Blended Raw Mama Sarah Williams, and I have recently embarked on a health quest that has to do with something that a lot of people are not really that familiar with, and that is actually, when we'll talk about it a little bit later, but it's candida. And I will kind of explain later. I'm going to throw out that topic and people are going to be like, what? But before you think that this doesn't apply to you, I encourage you to watch this live and also watch the other lives, because candida actually does take forms of about 150 different health problems that people aren't really aware of. So I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to hop on. I know that's kind of been my mistake in the past, is not giving people enough time to hop on. So how's everybody doing today? Hello, Laura. If you could do me a favor when you sign on, if you could leave your name and where you're from so that I know who is joining, or I should say where you live, where you're tuning in from. Good to see you, girl. Thanks for joining. All right. A little bit of time. So, okay. So if you all are just tuning in or watching the replay, again, welcome. So today I wanted to actually kind of go over the basis of this video, and that's going to be all of the issues and stuff that I've dealt with following or leading up to now have been underneath the diagnosis candida. And I know I haven't actually ever mentioned that before. There was a couple of times that I was kind of trying to figure out how this was going to go, and so I appreciate you bearing with me. I've never actually done lives before, so I was a blogger in a previous life, aka my adolescence. Actually, my friend Laura, she actually knows me from my blogging days, so she can attest to the fact that that is legit. But I haven't done lives before, so I just appreciate you guys bearing with me and kind of giving me some grace on that. So I'm going to kind of go back to the beginning of my story. And my story began, I'm originally from Charlottesville, and so a lot of you all might recognize the mama as kind of a slang word, southern word for mom. And that was kind of a cool way, I thought, of tying in my background and kind of my history into who I am now, which is in a blended family. And so you kind of get a basis of kind of how the name got about, which was I'm blended because I'm in a blended family. I'm raw because, let's just face it, sometimes we have some pretty raw days, especially when you're a stepmom and a wife, and you're just kind of doing life together. And also I'm a mama, and I'm from the South, so I'm a Rocky Mountain transplant. Original East Coaster, so I can kind of go in the best of both worlds. I got the beach, and then I also got the mountains, so it's nice to go back and visit my friends that are in the on the East Coast and see that. So my story starts in Charlottesville, Virginia, and if you guys heard about Charlottesville recently, unfortunately, my heart was definitely with my hometown at that time. I hope all of you guys stayed safe. I grew up in a rather tumultuous family. I grew up with I had a brother and sister, and my sister was the oldest, my brother was the middle, and I was the youngest. And there was about a 6-year difference between my brother and I, and an 8-year difference between my sister and I. And we grew up in a family with a father who was a workaholic, and he worked, sun up to sundown, and wasn't ever really present in our life. And he was, for lack of a better term, very overbearing, and kind of had a very rigid, strict, like, my way or the highway. And that was really stressful because I am a person who doesn't really adhere very well to rules. I've always kind of had an issue with like just kind of blind authority. And I kind of feel like somebody who is put in authority over me has to be doing so in a way that is honoring and not belittling and putting down and stuff like that. So there was quite a bit of chaos, I would say, in the family because we never really knew when we were going to come home, and dad was going to have had a bad day and he's going to just fly off the handle at myself or my two siblings or my mom. And so that was it was hard to kind of get be born into that situation. And from as long as I can remember, I had issues with my gut, and I didn't know what was really causing the issues. I just knew, as a little girl, like my parents would fix broccoli, or they would fix cauliflower, or they would fix, different things, and we'll talk about later why those were reactive. But they would basically fix, these different things and say, hey, you have to eat these, and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to eat them, but I'm going to get sick. So I was never really getting the nutrients because I would eat them and then I would go upstairs and they, for lack of a better term, they would exit and I would never get any of the nutrients. So they would just kind of go in, and then, right out. And I was not aware of this, but I was actually wreaking havoc on my digestive system. I was created what most people refer to as like kind of leaky gut type symptoms. But what a lot of people don't realize is your digestive system is actually about 90%, or your digestive system is about 90% in charge of your like overall health. So that includes like your mental, your hormonal, all of your different things. And a lot of people don't realize, but the kind of stomach, I don't know if you've ever been like in a stressful situation, or maybe somebody was yelling at you. Stress manifests itself differently in different people. So some people might have a tightness in their chest. Other people might have kind of a flip-floppy stomach. And, other people might get a headache. There's kind of different ways. But stress is one of the main factors that causes sleep disorders and insomnia. And in my case, I actually slept a lot because my body just shut down due to the stress, but we'll talk about that on a different day. And I had an awful time eating anything. And I grew up thinking I was allergic to all of these foods. And so if you knew me when I was younger, you would know that I always had issues with food. I would be out somewhere, I'd be with friends, or whatever, and I would get sick. And a lot of the times people would get kind of mad at me because I would be out with, like ordering something or whatnot, or like at somebody's house, and they would offer me something and I would say, hey, I can't have that because it's going to make me sick. And a lot of people was, hi, Steph. I'm going to try to greet you guys as you come in, but if you could just do me a favor and leave your name and where you're tuning in from, that would be really, really helpful. So if you knew me kind of in, especially my college years, but also when I was younger and I'd go over to people's houses, I would say, hey, I can't eat that because I get sick. And I never was really tested for allergies. So I never was defined as, hey, this is a problem. But what I found later, and later actually is now, is that I actually wasn't allergic to those foods. But those foods, the stress itself would trigger the candida to basically take over. And I just want to kind of touch a little bit about that. But most people have candida at normal levels. It's harmless. It exists inside of your mouth. It's also in your vagina, your rectum, and your digestive tracts. And if you're a woman, it's normal. Everybody has that normal bacteria. But if there's an overgrowth, that's when candida is a problem. And my actual situation with me being so stressed out all of the time, it actually started when I was a baby. And when I was a baby and I was born as a C-section, and I was not I was not given the proper amount of probiotics. So there's the good bacteria and then the bad bacteria, and the probiotics is basically pro, it means for, bio, which is life. And so it's basically the good bacteria. So oftentimes people will eat yogurt, they might eat sauerkraut, they might have different things that have a really high level of good bacteria. Well, when you're born and you don't have the good bacteria to start with, you automatically start out with no bacteria. So there's a chance for the bad bacteria to basically overtake. And that's what was starting to happen with me. Now my mom was unaware of this. I was unaware of it. Nobody really knew. It wasn't until I got to like high school and like kind of more that I was starting to have more problems. And I went to the doctor and different things, and see, the doctor, they will give you medication. That would basically say you have IBS. So they'd give you medication for constipation or diarrhea or different things. And I mentioned in one of my blog posts that I had a drug for everything. I had a drug for, this symptom and that symptom and this symptom and that symptom, but it wasn't helping my body because I was just treating the symptom. I wasn't getting to the root cause. And the cause was I have a candida overgrowth. And it can manifest itself in different ways. For some people, like I said, it's IBS. For some people, it's headaches. For some people, it's brain fog. For some people, it's fibromyalgia symptoms. There's different things. There's 150 different symptoms that are actually underneath the term candida. And most people don't realize that. So somebody says, oh, I can't focus, I must have ADHD, or you could have a candida overgrowth. So that's really my, what I kind of like my takeaway for this particular live is just kind of just check in with people and basically see like, how are you doing? Making sure that stress is something that is being managed. There's people manage stress in different ways. Some people will exercise. Some people find, taking a bath. There's different people, there's different outlets and stuff for different people. But just making sure that you're keeping those stress levels under wraps, because stress, and especially for me, had been detrimental. Like even now, if I get into an argument or I can sense something like a fight coming up, like with my husband or somebody, I will say, hey, like, can you stop? Can we call a timeout? Because I start to get this tightening, and I can almost feel going back when I was a little girl, and I would come in and my dad would be like, what's going on? And just like open the door and slam it and everything. And I would freeze, because in my body, basically you do the fight or flight, and it was just freeze, and I would just tense up. And so that's kind of the toll that stress had on me. So I will be posting this in the YouTube, and as always, if you guys have any questions, thank you for tuning in to this first part of my story. I really appreciate it. It's an incredibly personal thing for me to be sharing with the world, because it is something I've dealt with my entire life, and it has plagued my existence, I will say. And when you are afraid to eat because everything makes you sick, but then you're hungry because you're not getting the nutrients anyway, because when you eat, it just goes right through your system, it's beyond frustrating. And you often suffer from, lack of nutrition and, different things like that, different minerals, and they start to present themselves with different health problems. And my first health problem that I had was, again, the IBS and just the gut system being off. And when your gut is off, it throws your entire system off. So when you have an unhealthy gut, you really can't have a healthy anything else. So I'm drinking my alkaline water. It's 8.8. I'm going to talk to you later. I will do a graphic about how important it is to have an alkalized system. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to kind of leave it open for the few people that signed on. If you do, you can always reach out to me at blendedrawmama@gmail.com. Or you can feel free to connect with me via Facebook message, or you can also join my blog. So be sure to follow me and like me on Instagram. And if this message or if this video was helpful to you, please share it so that other people can benefit and be blessed. So, okay. Okay, I love all of you guys for tuning on. Thank you for spending time with me. Hope you have a good rest of your Friday and a blessed weekend. Okay, I'll talk to you later.